Hello! This is Shoyan, a Japanese carpenter. This time, I'll continue making a DIY table. I'd like to make the legs from Zelkova material and then paint it to finish it. I'll make the table legs. First, I'd like to cut a bit horizontally. Since I want to cut it horizontally, I'll draw a rough line and hang it. It looks like hanging a wild boar. I'll put the laser and draw the line horizontally. This can cut it horizontally for now. I haven't decided yet whether this will be the top or bottom of the table leg, but I'd like to cut a bit horizontally for now. I also want to divide it vertically into two, so I'll draw a marking vertically by using a laser. I'm a little worried whether it fits or not, but I'll draw the reference line. Because of this kind of shape, I'd like to divide it using a slightly high stand. I want to cut it with a chainsaw, so I'll lay a timber on it so that I won't cut the stand. Lay the material sideways. The moment I return it, the switch and everything flew away. It's quite heavy. It's going to be hard in handling this. Before using the chainsaw, keep the bottom firmly in place. Now cut it with a chainsaw. This is the branching part. Normally, I don't cut the branching part in two like this. It seems difficult to cut, but I'll try it. Fortunately, the diameter was so thick that I could reach it if I went around the material with a chainsaw bar. If it's a little thicker than this, I couldn't cut it with a chainsaw. I have no choice but to cut it around with a chainsaw. I'll pay attention to the kickback of the chainsaw bar and cut it. Since I cut in half with a chainsaw, turn it over. The moment I stood up, it was about to fly away and crush the machine. Therefore, I should not underestimate the heavy materials. Also, cut the back side. It looks bigger when viewed from here. Finally, I was able to cut it. The nice color of Zelkova has come out. The surface is rotten. Zelkova won't rot inside, so I'd like to use only this hardwood. Since I was able to cut it horizontally, I'd like to divide this vertically. I'm going to cut it vertically, so I'll use a lower stand and place the material horizontally to draw a vertical line. The vertical line was also drawn at the beginning, but for some reason, it is greatly misaligned. Since it was not decided through both senders, there was a gap in the case of a round surface. I had the chainsaw to do the job, so I'll give some treats. Let's break the problematic material vertically. The material looks small depending on the camera angle, but it's quite large. Honestly, I measured if the bar would reach, but I'm a little worried. It's my first time to divide it vertically, but I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of hazard will come out as a result. When I think about how to make this table, I asked the lumber shop to show me the material of the table and decided to use a MonkeyPod, but I couldn't decide what material to use to make the legs. When I was at the lumber shop, I was also thinking of making tenons. Then there were a stack of materials for making firewood, and this material was placed there that couldn't be used. The reason for this leg was that I thought I can divide it in half and use it. I still don't have an image of the shape in my mind, but I'm going to divide this in half and stand it on both sides, and put the MonkeyPod table board on there to make a shape of the table. Turn over the material again and cut it from the opposite side. Before that, I'll sharpen the blade of the chainsaw. It's so difficult to cut Zelkova wood vertically with a coarse chainsaw blade. It takes time because it's difficult to cut it even with a saw. I managed to divide it in two. It's now finally divided, so I'll lay it on the stand. First, I'll plane the surface on the divided side. Since it was divided with a chainsaw, there are warps and surface are raveling. Fix the warps in the vertical and horizontal directions, and use the electric plane to both vertically and horizontally to fix the twist and plane it. I found out the Zelkova by dividing it. The outside was completely rotten, but the inside was still damp. But thanks to the dampness, it was easy to use the electric plane. A beautiful hazard came out from inside. It's a hazard that can be seen with ordinary materials. The official name is Sabamoku. It's a hazard that is made by one tree, tiers on both sides. So it's V-shaped on the top side. It's an auspicious hazard. Makes the horizontal end of the wood at a right angle. Since I want to use a hazard in the V shape, I'd like to use this side as the upper end. I'll put the table on this, so make a little dent. If it's warped, the table will rattle. So it's more useful to dent it a little than to flatten it. I'd like to make the table with a height of 720 millimeters and a shape opposite to the trapezoid. In my image, I wanted to use the expanded part as it is, but it was too big and wider than the table. So I had no choice but to make it trapezoidal. Cut off the horizontal shape into a trapezoid. I could have used the wide part, so it will be put into waste, but it's too wide and doesn't look good, so I don't have a choice but to cut it. Now a rough shape was created, and it was finally heavy enough to be moved by one person. Plane the shape and fix the shape. And scrape off the sapwood of the outer part with a curved base planer. The sapwood on the outside is mostly rotting. In the old days, Zelkova was left for many years after it was cut down until the surface rotted in the lumberyard. And after the sapwood is rotten, we saw it and made the product. Then the material of only the hardwood inside is dry, and there are less cracks and deviations. That's how we use Zelkova. But these days, the usage has changed in various ways, such as using the bark of the edges and the sapwood material. Originally, only the hardwood part of Zelkova is used. I finished a flat surface instead of a round one. The hazard that looks like each one is fluttering has appeared. It looks like a hornet's nest and it's beautifully finished. I'll also plane the other leg. I'm getting a bit sick of using electric plane, so I'll try using the log shaver. This is a machine dedicated to peeling log barks. It's been a few years since I took it out and used it, but it's a useful machine. If I put it vertically or horizontally, that part will be peeled off. Even if I peeled it by the log shaver, I have to finish by electric plane. Honestly, I couldn't finish it beautifully because it was rough, but I removed some portion with a chisel. Use a hand plane in the part that can be planed straight. Since the straight part is just an ordinary Zelkova, it can be planed well. It's quite easy to plane if it's moist and isn't completely dry, even with a Zelkova. Finish the undivided outer part with a sander. Also, polish the birch parts of the boxer shorts firmly. It's beautiful to finish it with a curved bottom hand plane, but it can't be finished with such roughness. So I'd like to finish it with a sander. And finish it with a fine sandpaper. Saba Moku in the bifurcated part. I saw this for the first time. It's a hazard that can be finished with plane. Because it'll be finished with oil, I'll finish it with sander. Now I've finished processing the table legs. It took a whole day. The place has changed. I'd like to finish it with Osmo oil. I'm not a professional painter, so I'll try from the backside first. The oil that I used this time is Osmo oil, an oil that is applied simply and is wiped off to finish. Wipe it off. Not only wipe it off, but also rub it firmly. Then turn it over and apply the oil to the surface. Well, it's hard to turn it over. After all, the surface is beautifully finished with a fine sander, so the oil sits completely different. Will sit beautifully. Also, apply the sides firmly in the same way. The cotton will absorb the oil well. The surface was finished with 2 coats. This is a last wipe. Apply to the leg materials as well. The color of Zelkova is almost same as MonkeyPod. If I apply it on sapwood, the color will become darker and it will look black. The color will change. But if I apply oil, the heather of the Zelkova will be very beautiful. Especially the divided sabamoku part was finished very beautifully. It's beautiful. Now, let's assemble it. I will put the table board. Gross weight is over 200 kilograms. It is a solid-looking heavy table. The board of this table is just placed and not fixed, but it doesn't move when pushed or get on the edge. Finished in a splendid table with a strong presence. MonkeyPod, the heather is really beautiful. It looks good. Now the table of the song has been completed. I don't want to make a table for a while. I had a hard time. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.